when were you first aware of this idea of race? Like, if you guys could, like...
That's a different question.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Yeah, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, what's, like, your first... Like, what's your earliest memory of...
I was in Nigeria till I was 13. And so race was not a thing I thought about. I was just... Everybody else looked just like me. And that's just how my childhood happened. I felt like... I never felt othered. I felt like one of. I didn't even understand the concept of being like black and white. I literally didn't. Even though, you know, you watch TV and there's people on TV that are white. But I just never felt like I was like less than. I didn't really feel black till I came to Canada, honestly. And so grade 8, 13, and suddenly I was African. And I'd never had to say I was African before. So that was my earliest memory of feeling black. And it wasn't necessarily in a negative way, but suddenly there was like this need to label and identify yourself. And so it's like, you're African, you're black, and then that became a thing.
Yeah, when I was younger, my brother used to collect comic books, and he had a comic book of, I think it was just a commercial inside one of the comic books that was a black superhero, and he was being chased by the police, and the bubble said, "This shit never happens to Superman."
Oh, yeah? Oh, my God.
Oh, that's like us. Yeah, my brother was probably the first point of teaching me the fact that I'm black, the fact that that's a thing, that there's a difference there.
I think for me, like my earliest memory of like this idea of race was probably when I moved to Calgary. Like, because it's funny, because like I grew up before I went to Calgary, I was in Montreal. But then, I guess because we were around so many like Haitian people, like there was like a lot of, like in the community that it was like there was a lot of Haitian people, a lot of black people around. So like I knew there was like white people, but then I was like, okay, whatever. But then I do remember being aware that like, I don't know, I just remember really thinking like, oh, like all the white kids, they have internet at their house. But when I go and I talk to no, because it's true, like I would be like, oh, they're able to have that at their house and like all these things. And whenever I would talk to like some of my black friends, they would, like, economically, I started to see there was a contrast, and I started to kind of like question like, why is that like the people that look like this have this, but then we don't, and then I think that's when I started to become more aware of it. And I think when I moved to Calgary, that's when things became a lot more stark, because there wasn't as many black people or Haitian people. And the school that I went to, which was a French immersion school in the Northwest, there was like 5 black people, including staff and students. And so that contrast...
And the black marker.
I feel like that's like the quintessential
the chalkboard.
Yeah. So then with that, I started to be like, oh, okay. I don't know, that it became a lot more like evident in your face.
So how old were you?
I think I was 11.
Well, when I was growing up in Ottawa, I was about like 9-10 years old, I think, and I was walking to school one day, and I was looking at these guys, two or 3 guys that were a bit older than me, maybe they were like 12 or something, 12, 13. And they were like roughhousing, goofing around on the other side of the street, and I just like looked over, and they looked at, I guess they felt my eyes on them or something, and they're like, "What are you looking at, nigger?" And I was like, "What?"
What?
Yeah, and I was like, well, I don't even really know what that means, but I knew it was like it wasn't good. Like, the feeling I had in like the pit of my stomach was like I want to cry, but I didn't know why I want to cry, and it was just, I had kind of heard that word before, and I just knew like it wasn't a good word. And that's probably the first time I really realized like, oh, I think I'm different. And sometimes maybe that difference is a good thing to some people.
We moved to Canada when I was 3. So I think the idea that there was other races, well, outside of my own, like, was something I think I just always felt in the back of my, like, it's just something that was my existence. So, but to really acknowledge it as other, or like the idea that that's norm, mine is other, was hammered home probably like when I started going to school. There was one time where we were playing My Little Pony. I feel like I've told you this story before. Anyway, and the girls never let me play with them. Like, I always had to be a bad guy with the guys. And I would sit there, like, I remember, you know, if I was you, I would have been like, like, trying to figure out, like, I literally was, like, trying to figure out why I couldn't. And I was like, two hands, like, face. Like, I remember, like, very much just being very critical, and then, you know, trying to pay attention to the girls, and, like, what is it that they're doing that I'm not doing that doesn't let me play with them? And then going home and talking to my mom about it. And my mom, she left Nigeria for 10 years when she was 18. She went to London, actually, and took midwifery. And so that was what, like the 1960-something, 1968? Yeah, late 60s, early 70s. And so her lived experience, what she would share to me was just like, these white people, they will try and cut you down, blah, blah, blah. So with that knowledge, I went back to school and I was like, okay, this is the reason that I can't play My Little... And I think that was like the beginning of just understanding. And then I also think that's where I developed certain things, because there were certain things I realized are universal. You know, laughter is universal. Like, there's certain things that can transcend. So I think I really started honing like these other things, because I was like, I may say boots, I may, you know, do
but
whatever.
I will make you laugh.
Yeah, I bet my chin chin at lunch may cut your mouth up.
But
But
listen, Jollof rice munch. They're having a sandwich.
Yeah, I saw like all these little things that I was like, I don't understand, but the way that you can make it understandable, if it was funny, if it was like this thing. So I think that it was very much like kindergarten, where I was like, that's what it is.
Word.
I was just at a young age. I don't think I have a defining point where I was cognizant of it. I think it was just something. If you want to talk about a moment, like, you know, what is race? Like, that's for me, that's like the first question. When you say, were you aware of a race? Are you talking about, are you aware of your race in a social context, or are you aware of your race in the fact that my skin is lighter than your skin? Are you aware of the fact that, like, I burn and you don't, or I tan and you don't, or you have, like, your eyes are more almond shaped? Like, you know, what aspect of it? I think for me, if you wanted to talk about, like, specifically like black and white kind of just race relations, I don't know. I think my school did a pretty good job of kind of like, well, they showed us Amistad in grade 3, I think it was. And for me, that, I still have that. There's the scene, do you know the scene where they chain a bunch of people and they throw the anchor off? And you see these shots of, like, underneath, like, just people splashing into the water and just getting pulled down. That to me, like, yeah, I like.
What kind of realization did you have, like, a realization of that?
Yeah.
Or, like, what did it do to you or for you?
Just brought in a whole new reality of just, like, what the fuck we're capable of, like, people, and just how, I don't know, the history. As a white male, no one's calling me, well, some people are, but like, I haven't had to really, you know, socially, I don't have to deal with very much of that at all.
Right.